that, we'll remove the result text.setText method. We're not actually going to show this to the user. So we'll delete the whole line for now. So we're going to need to know what the formula is to work out BMI. So I'm just going to head over to my browser. Okay, I'm going to do a search for how to calculate BMI. And if I just scroll down, what's the formula? That's what we need. The formula is weight in kilograms divided by height in meters squared. So we already have the weight in kilograms. We just need to convert the height into meters squared. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Back to Android Studio. So we're going to need to have the height in meters. Now, it should be fairly straightforward to convert inches into meters. There'll be another formula for that. But we have the feet and inches. So the first thing we're going to need to do is convert the feet into inches and then add that to the inches to make a total amount of inches. So we would need to multiply the feet by 12 to get 12 inches in a foot. So we have the feet and inches as text. So let's see what happens when we try to do mathematics using strings. So feet text multiplied by 12. We have an error. Android Studio is complaining. Let's hover over this. An operator multiply cannot be applied to a string. Okay, so remember, string is just a string of characters, and those characters can be letters or numbers. And at this point in our programming code, Java doesn't know what we have, so how can it possibly multiply letters or symbols by 12? So let's go ahead and remove this line for now. So the first thing we need to do is convert our strings into an integer. And fortunately for us, there's some ready-made code for us to use that will do this. So to declare a new variable, and we'll do it for all of them in order. Let's do int age text. Sorry, age, not text. Equals. Now, there's a ready-made class which has some methods in that we can use, and it is in the class called integer from the Java language library. You can see that there. So autocomplete integer with capital I, that's a class which has a method, so press it full stop. And the method we need is parse int. Now, this word parse, I remember when I first saw this word, I kept seeing it over and over again and I was confused by it. You can think of the word parse as the word analyze. All it's going to do is it will take a look at what you give it. So in these brackets in a moment, we're going to give it the age text string, and it will analyze that string. And in this case, it will convert it to an int for us. It will do all that programming code for us. Okay. So whenever you see the word parse, think of it as analyze, break down, see what's in it, and then in this case, it's going to convert it. So integer.convert int from this string. So let's give it the age text, and then end that line with a semicolon. So we're using a ready-made method called parse int and giving it the string text. Okay. Let's duplicate this 4 times. And let's do it for each of our texts. So we have the feet number, so we just call it feet. We have the inches, we have the weight, and let's make sure we parse the right string in each case. So feet text, inches text, and weight text. Okay. So this is brilliant. We now have here our numbers. Let's put a comment here. So / converting the number strings into int variables. So now we can do some mathematics on these. So we get the 4 simple mathematical operators in Java. We get plus, subtract, divide, and multiply. So thinking about what we need to do now, we need to multiply the feet by 12 to get the feet in inches. And then we need to add that to our inches number to get a total number of inches. So let's do exactly this. Make a new variable called total inches. And we'll make this equal to feet multiplied by 12. And let's, just like we would do with maths ourselves, let's put this in brackets to ensure that we do this first. So feet times 12. And that's in the bracket plus, and then the inches. Okay, so we can do simple maths without using any methods or any special classes in Java, which is brilliant. So that's that statement done. That's that line done, sorry. So we have the total inches. And the next thing we need to do is get the height in meters. Now, I can tell you that the height in meters is the inches multiplied by 0.0254. I won't waste any more tutorial time going to Google and showing you that. You can check for yourself if you want to. So we'll make a new variable, int height in meters. And notice I'm spelling it the American way because there's the convention in programming to always spell things using the American spelling, so there's not inconsistencies. So words like meter and color, you'll notice this. So height in meters equals, and it's the total inches multiplied by 0.0254, and semicolon. And we've got another error now. Let's see what this says. Required int found double. So have a little think. Can you think what the problem is with declaring an integer variable and then multiplying it by 0.0254? Well, inches by that. Can you have a think? So this is all multiply. So that is the calculation. We've converted our numbers to strings. And put a comment here to say height in meters is the inches multiplied by 0.0254. And then we've got our formula there. Divided by height in meters squared. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is display this to the user. We won't worry about any of the logic of saying if they're healthy, underweight, or overweight. For now, we will just show the BMI value. Now, we need to get our result text view, called the set text method again, and press enter. But this needs to be a string, it needs to be characters. So when we try to put in BMI, we get an error, and that error says that there is no method which accepts a double or decimal. This needs to be a string. So, just above this, there is, again, some more ready-made Java code that will convert many things into a string. Okay, and just like above, we have this integer class, this integer file Java made with the parse int method to convert strings into integers. Well, we also have the string library, so type string with a capital S, and they've got these methods value of, and that will take pretty much all of those types you see in the brackets, int, char, long, float, double, boolean, and it will convert that to a string for us. You can see it returns a string. So we will do the value of double, that one there, and put in our BMI, a semicolon, then of course we just need to assign that to a variable. So string, and we'll call it BMI text result, and we'll make it equal to that. So we now have our BMI as a string. We can copy that and put it in there, and that should now work. So just make a couple more notes to our code. So above this put, we must convert the decimal or the double into a string for our text view. So let's run this now, see if this works. So top right, run. Okay, let's fill in all of the fields, including the age one for now, even though we're not using this. Let's do 5'11". Let's do weight 75, and then click calculate. And there we have our decimal, our BMI result. Probably showing far too many decimal places for now, but we'll do some tidying up in the last tutorial on this BMI calculator in a few tutorials' time. So let's move on. It's time for our next programming concept, conditional logic. When you make your different in and out, get this you want additional, what do you think? If you fix it, and that is our programming concept on conditional logic. Okay, so I've closed down the previous tutorial Scratch file, and I'm now back in main activity.java. You can go ahead and do the same. And now we have an understanding of conditional logic and how to do it in Java with if statements. We actually have all that we need to get this BMI calculator finished. So let's get to it. One of the first things was we had a BMI, string BMI, which had too many decimal places. It was doing all of them. So if we delete this line here, string value of, so we've still got our BMI double. We've got an error there now, but that's okay for now. There's multiple ways in Java of formatting strings and formatting numbers into a certain number of decimal places and whatnot. I'm going to use one which I think is quite nice. There's other solutions out there. But if you can go ahead now and type decimal format, declare that as a variable type, and press enter to autocomplete, and that will import it for us. And we'll call it my decimal formatter. Okay, and we're going to make that equal to, we're going to assign that to a new decimal format, autocomplete, from the Java text library you can see. Okay, so this is one of many ways of formatting numbers, and inside these brackets you can see it needs a pattern, so we need to give it the string pattern of how we want it to look. So do some inverted commas, and we will do 0.00 and a semicolon to end the line. So if this looks confusing to you, this is just the way that this particular file, this particular class works. You make a new one of these classes, a new decimal format, and I expect you to give the format in this sort of style. Okay, so now we have this variable, my decimal formatter. We can call a method on it called format. So in my opinion, this particular library looks quite nice in code. And we'll give this our BMI. It takes lots of different types of things, but we'll go for BMI, and then a semicolon. So this will now take our BMI, format it to this pattern, to this many decimal places, 2 decimal places, and it will output that as a value. So we should probably assign this to a variable, so it outputs a string, and we'll call it, again, BMI text result. Okay, so this will have improved our BMI to be to 2 decimal places. The next thing we need to do now is actually have our conditional logic where we say if they're healthy, overweight, or underweight. So we will delete the result of set text for now. So there's multiple ways we can do this. I will do what I think is one of the simplest ways of doing our conditional logic. So we'll do if. Now let's see what happens if we try to use our BMI text result, our string. So if our BMI text result is less than 18.5, and then we'll do code block. Okay, we have a problem. If you hover over it, operator cannot be applied to string. Just like we can do addition, subtraction, multiplication with strings in that previous tutorial, we also can't do comparison operators like is less than or is greater than. Can't be done with a string, because remember, Java doesn't know if there's numbers in there. It could be text or letters. Okay, so we can't use the string, but we can use our original BMI. So change that to BMI, and that will now work. So if the BMI is less than 18.5, I'll put a comment, we will display underweight. Else, if the BMI is greater than 25, we'll do another comment, / display overweight. And we could do a complicated else if it's between 18.5 and 25, but actually, if it's not less than this, and it's not above this, then it must be between those 2 values. So we can just do else. So this is just, well, our BMI, we'll do the one if they're overweight. And then the final one is you are a healthy weight. So all we're doing is we're asking the computer to get some space ready to remember a string for us, and it might be assigned one of 3 different ways, depending on the condition. Okay? It will only get assigned once, because all of these cannot be true. Only one can. Alright? And once we've done all that, we can then get our result text view and set text and give it the full result string. Okay, so let's run this now. Let's make sure that we have our BMI displaying to 2 decimal places, and let's make sure we'll try 3 times that we get 3 different conditions, so 3 different outputs depending on the condition. So let's run this now. Make sure it's an app, not scratch file. Make sure it's on your emulator, and run. Now, once we've done all that, okay, so let's run this now. Let's make sure that we have our BMI displaying to 2 decimal places, and let's make sure we'll try 3 times that we get 3 different conditions, so 3 different outputs depending on the condition. So let's run this now. Make sure it's on app, not scratch file. Make sure it's on your emulator, and run. Okay, so that's now loaded on the emulator. As you can see, we've got that placeholder kind of default value set in the text view, so we need to change that in a moment, so ignore this. Now let's put in age, I don't know, 20, height 6'1", and weight 83, and then let's calculate that. Okay, 24.14, you are a healthy weight. So that's correct, and it's 2 decimal places. All right, let's do an example where they're underweight. Let's change this to 60. Definitely underweight. Calculate. 17.545, you're underweight. And then let's do 100. And 29.09, you're overweight. So we have this text view nicely formatting the number, and we have the 3 different conditions to display the right output. Excellent. So let's minimize the emulator now and do a couple more bits of cleanup. So if you look now at this calculate BMI method, it's pretty big, and it's doing more than just calculating the BMI. It's actually calculating the BMI and then displaying the result to the user. So really, we want to be separated into 2 different methods. It makes your code cleaner, it makes it read nicer when you see the on-click blog. And then if anything was to go wrong, you would know, you'd have a more specific idea of where it's going wrong. So let's copy all of the string formatting and the conditional logic. Let's cut this out with Control X or Command X, and then we'll remove the line breaks. And underneath the calculate BMI method, let's make a new method called display result. Breaks. The string formatting and the conditional logic. Let's cut this out with Control X or Command X, and then we'll remove the line breaks. And underneath the calculate logic, let's cut this out with Control X or Command X, and then we'll remove the line breaks. And underneath the calculate BMI method, let's make a new method called display result. We're going to make it private because we don't want any other files to read this. This one isn't going to return anything, so void. And copy the code. Okay, as you can see now, we can't see our BMI variable here because it's a local variable. It's out of scope. Okay, so there's 2 ways we can fix this. We can set it to be a class variable or a field, but that's not really the right approach because it's going to change every time, and we don't want to be holding on to this old BMI value between button clicks. That's no good. So we want it to be local. And also, let's have a look. Display result is great. We're not even calling it yet. We could call it here. You could call display result here and then pass the BMI in there. That could be okay. But I think there's a better way. Let's delete this. We should call it in the on-click. So there's 2 things. It works like the BMI and displays the result. For this error to go away, we need to pass it in as a parameter. So it will be a double type, and we'll call it BMI, the same name. So that gets rid of the error. We've got a parameter here which behaves like a local variable. So all we need to do now is pass display result our BMI. But hang on a second, we're not doing it from the calculate BMI method. We're doing it in here. So how can we get the BMI from this method in this code here? Have a think. The answer is make the calculate BMI method return the BMI. Give it a return type. So delete the word void and put the word double because we're going to return a double variable type. And then underneath here we can return the BMI. Excellent. We have a little warning saying local variable BMI is redundant. We're not actually doing anything with BMI here, so actually we can just return this. Let's allow Android Studio to fix this error for us. Do Option or Alt Enter on the warning. Inline variable, click that. So you see what it did? It removed that variable declaration and just returned that value directly. So that's a really nice looking method now. It's only doing one thing, calculating the BMI, which is what we want. So now this returns a value. So let's assign it to a variable. Let's call it the BMI result. Okay? And then let's pass this into the method. So there's quite a few things going on here. We've changed the calculate BMI to return the BMI. We've gathered it up here into a variable, and then we give the next method that same variable. So this should now work exactly the same way. Okay? So this is good. So the final thing we need to do is take into account age and gender. Now, for over 18s, the healthy overweight underweight is more or less the same for all adults. There are some more complicated scales where, as people get older, the healthy range is slightly, but that's beyond the scope of this project. That's too complex for what we want to do. You're welcome to add that additional conditions if you want to. But for under 18s, for children and teenagers, there is a completely different set of ranges, and it changes throughout their childhood and when they're teenagers. And we would have to write many, many, many conditions for this, and it would take far too long for this tutorial. So you are free to, later on, after this section is complete, to develop this and add as many conditions and ages as you want. We're going to have a very simple one. If they're over 18, we will show them the guidance. If they're under 18, we will not make any recommendations of whether they're healthy or not. We will say they need to refer to their GP, and we'll just show the usage of the male and female buttons, because it does differ for boys and girls, and we'll just say something like, ask your GP for the health ranges for boys, ask the GP for the health ranges for girls. So I'm going to show you how to use those radio buttons, but our under 18 logic, our conditions, are going to be really simple for now. It would just take too long to do every single age. So let's go ahead and do this now. So, in our on-click, after we've got the BMI result, we need to do a condition here. We actually need the age in this block here, we need the age here. In fact, if you go to calculate BMI, we're not even using age in this, so we can delete this. And when we do that, the age text is not used, so we can delete that. In fact, let's cut this. So cut this, Control X, remove the line break. Oops. Okay, and after we've got BMI result, we will get the age here. So we're getting the age text value from the text view, remember, and we'll convert that string into an int variable again. So int age equals integer class, the integer file, parse int. We're going to analyze that string and convert it if we can. Good. So we have our age as a number again, as an integer. So now we can use some conditional logic. If the age is greater than or equal to 18, then we will cut this. We'll display the result. Else, so they must be younger now, we will display guidance. Okay, so we're typing a method that doesn't exist now. Remember, this is one of my 3 ways of making a new method. We'll give it the same BMI result because we want to show them the number. We just don't want to tell them if they're healthy or not. So we've written a new method that doesn't exist, but we've given it our BMI result. So let's now Option Enter, Alt Enter on the error, and we'll create a method display guidance. Don't do it in anonymous. Don't do it in the click listener. Do it in the main activity. I'm not going to return anything, so you can press Enter on the void, and that's right. Double's right, and the name is we'll call it BMI again. Oops, that should be PMI. Okay, good. So we've made another method now. We've used the error to quickly make the method. As I mentioned, it's a kind of lazy but very useful way to do it that I use quite a lot when I'm at work. Okay, let's move this to the bottom, underneath display results and cut and paste. So now the conditional logic is a bit different. We're not going to do any conditions based on if they're overweight or underweight. We'll show some different text if they said they're male or female, or if they haven't set it at all because they might not want to. So we need the same decimal format thing. So we'll copy that. Okay, and we need to also do the full result string. So we'll copy this. Okay, so the conditional logic now looks a bit different. We do if, and we have a male button and a female button variable. We have them as a class field, so we have a reference to our radio buttons on the screen. So if the male button dot, now there's many methods, but the one we need is checked. So do that one. So if the user selected that, then this will be true, and this code will run. Okay, and we're going to display boy guidance. Else if the female button dot is checked, make a new block, we can display the girl guidance. And then, if they haven't selected gender, we'll just display general guidance. As I mentioned, this is a very, very simplistic way of using our age and our female male buttons, but at least shows you how radio buttons work, okay? So, let's do this. The full result string is going to equal the BMI text results, plus, and we'll do our hyphen again, and we'll say, as you are under 18, please consult with your doctor for the healthy range for boys, semicolon, and we'll copy that. And we'll do this for girls. Remove the line break. And then we'll do one just generally for the healthy range. This is just to show you how you can use the male and female buttons, okay? It's not the most sophisticated of conditional logic there. Okay, and then same as before, we can do result text.set text. So let's check this now. Let's run this. Okay, text.set text. So let's check this now. Let's run this. Okay, so we'll do one if they're over 18, we'll do 25, 6 foot, and we'll do the weight of 80. So when they're over 18, they still get the guidance, 23.92, okay? But let's do one for if they're underage. Underage boy, as you're under 18, please consult with your doctor for the healthy range for boys. Underage girl, as you're under 18, please consult with the healthy range for girls. And we'll just need to rerun this to show you what happens if they don't select anything. And we'll just show if they select no sex, neither male nor female. Oops, let's do 16, 5 foot 10, weight 70. As you're under 18, please consult with your doctor for the healthy range. Okay, so there's just two more bits of cleanup to do, and that is to do with the XML now. Very quick things these, just minimize the emulator. Go to the activity_main file, you can do shift, or you can find it in your res folder. I'll go in the folder, resource, layout, activity main. We want to remove the default text view, so delete that. And I realized that they might not know to put their weight in kilograms, so let's just add brackets, kg brackets. So now they know the correct units to do their weight in. And we'll run this one more time, and we have a better bit of guidance, kg brackets. So now they know the correct units to do their weight in. And we'll run this one more time, and we have a kg brackets. So now they do that. And one more time, sorry, 72, and then no text at the moment, but when we press calculate, we get the guidance. So we have a complete BMI calculator. Congratulations. So let's move on.